Percentages converting from fractions and decimals using number chips. This is a digital lesson, and this one is basketball themed. So the lesson starts out explaining what a percentage is. It's a comparison out of 100. So 45% means 45 out of 100. And here's some just basic conversions from decimals, fractions, and percentages. So if we have the decimal 56 hundredths, it's the same as the fraction 56 hundredths, which is 56%. 73 hundredths, same as the fraction 73 hundredths, which is 73%. And then 1 whole is 100%. So the next slide, students are going to be moving the number chips. So they move these around the screen. They just click and hold on the edge, and then they can move these into place. This slide's pretty simple. They get some practice moving the number chips, and they're going to place them in the correct place, converting the decimal to the percentage. So this is 12 hundredths, so that would be 12%. So they just move the 12, 59 hundredths, 59%, and so on, and then 1 whole is 100%. Now every slide has every number the students need, so as these get a little bit more difficult and students get to the end of a slide and the numbers aren't working, then they know they made an error somewhere and they need to go back and check. The next slide explains a way to convert a decimal to a percentage is to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So here we would have 62%, 59%. This one, if we move 2 places to the right, we get 174%. And in this case, where there's no number here, they have to just add a 0, which would make it 30%, not 3%. So the next slide, students are going to be moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. So this one would be 65%. And this one's 6.5% if they move that decimal point 2 places to the right. This one would be 70% because they have to add a 0. And then this one, 7%, and so on. Then they're shown how to convert a fraction to a percentage. Here, they want to create an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. So that's one way to do this. So if they multiply the numerator and denominator by 5, they're going to get an equivalent fraction of 45 hundredths. So now they're comparing out of 100. It would be the same as 45 100ths as a decimal, which would be 45%. Here they're multiplying the numerator and denominator by 2. They get 24 hundredths, which would be the same as 24 hundredths as a decimal, which would be 24%. So students are going to do that on the next slide. Here they want their denominator to be 100, so they just move the 100 into place. To do this, they have to multiply numerator and denominator times 5. That would make 30 hundredths. And then 30 hundredths as a decimal, which would be 30%. Here they just multiply the numerator and denominator by 2. They're going to do the same thing on the next 2 slides, just converting it to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. Now they're going to have some fractions that they can't directly convert to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. They may need to simplify first. So here we have 18/40ths. If we divide the numerator and denominator by 2, we get 9/20ths. Now we have a fraction that we can convert to 100 by multiplying the numerator and denominator by 5, and then go ahead and convert it to a percentage. So on the next slide, they're going to be doing this. They're going to simplify their fraction first. Here they can divide the numerator and denominator by 3, and they get 2/5. Now they can convert it to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator by multiplying by 20. Then they have 40 hundredths, which would be 40 hundredths as a decimal, which would be 40%, and so on. Again, this one, they have to simplify first 1/20th, and then go ahead and convert it to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. They're going to be doing that on the next slide also. Now there are some fractions that cannot be converted to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. In that case, they have to use long division. So here they have 5/8. They're just going to divide 5 divided by 8. And the division is shown for the students. This is long division. And then they're going to get this decimal answer. To change it to a percentage, they move the decimal point 2 places to the right. The next slide, most of the division is done for them. They just have to move the answer into place. So here 8 goes into 10 one time. Multiply 8 times 1. Subtract, bring down a 0. 8 goes into 20 two times. Multiply, they get 16. Subtract, bring down that last 0. And then 8 goes into 45 times evenly. So they're going to get a decimal answer of 125 thousandths. If they move the decimal point 2 places to the right, they're going to get 12.5%. And then they have a decimal point here that's movable. And they just move that decimal point into the correct place. The very last slide, the students are going to have to do all of the division themselves. They have all the number chips they need. And then they're going to place that decimal point correctly in the answer. So that is the end of the lesson. This is the basketball version of percentages converting from fractions and decimals.